I think we should be live. All right. Now, this is the second episode in the series of character sketch, something that we have started. Now, there are many public figures in our country, in our history. Many of them are vilified beyond limit. They have been made into this very cruel villain, although they have not been so. But yes, they have been made into this villain. Our history textbooks rarely speak of them. Even many of the reference material that we use to learn history in our day-to-day lives, they all have been. It has been made sure that these materials too do not talk about them as well. One such character is Vinayak Savarkar. All right, he is a controversial figure. Even merely talking about him, irritates people who are opposed to his ideology, who do not subscribe to whatever he had to say. But um, that is besides the point. We have freedom of expression, and I would argue up to the extent that our country has maximum freedom of expression, even more so than the United States. All right. So, since we all have our freedom of expression, this is the new series that I have started that goes by the name of Character Sketch. Meaning, we are going to pick out few instances from his real life, backed by literary evidence, and see what kind of a person he was. And now, a word of caution. Okay, we have already put out one episode, so word of caution again that when we are talking about somebody who is not alive, somebody who is not present, we need to draw certain speculations. There cannot be 100% character sketch backed by evidence of somebody who does not live anymore. All right. So yes, we are going to build a character that is Vinayak Damodar Savarkar based on some of the literary evidence. Now, thankfully, Savarkar was very much fond of writing. Okay, he was a prolific writer, even a better poet, even a poet's, even better songwriter as well. He has written multiple poems, but majority of the biography that Vikram Sampath, okay, the entire of this proof, whatever I'm talking about, all those literary evidences are present in this book, that is Savarkar, that is written by Vikram Sampath. He is a very well established historian. So let's start. Today, the last episode ended with two young revolutionaries who go by the name of Chapekar brothers. Okay. And now, Chapekar brothers, the current prime minister has also mentioned about them once in the parliament as well. Now, Chapekar brothers, both of them were inspired by the writings of Tilak. Okay, Tilak, like I said, even the British accused him of writing seditious literature, and his writings did have some or the other revolutionary flavor, and that was what motivated Chapekar brothers to take the law into their own hands, because they were frustrated by the inaction of Congress and by the pusillanimity, meaning the impotency of Congress. Congress wasn't able to accomplish anything because all they depended upon was constitutional methods, prayers, and petitions. And this was something that was not uh, satisfied the youth. Okay, the youth were rather motivated by completely overthrowing the British authority, and they were aiming and aspiring for an utter and an absolute sovereign Bharat, whereas the moderates in Congress, they were operating under this assumption that all we can do or all we can aim for is dominion status within the British Empire. Okay, this was something that did not resonate well with the youth, did not resonate well with the young people. So yes, Chapekar brothers, they shot point blank the plague commissioner, who was Walter Rand during that time. Okay, now, why did they do that? It's a matter of debate between a lot of historians as well. Why exactly did Chapekar brothers resort to something that was so extreme? Okay, and to corroborate that, I want to read out first the confession by the Chapekar brothers themselves. Okay, they were presented before a magistrate and they recorded their written confession before a magistrate. Now, I'm going to read that very specific confession that the Chapekar brothers undertook. Okay, it goes as this. I went to Pune. The operations for the suppression of the plague were commenced. In search of houses, a great zulm, atrocity, was practiced by the soldiers. They entered the temples, brought out women from their houses, broke idols, burnt pothis. We determined to revenge these actions, but it was of no use to kill common people. It was necessary to kill the chief man. Therefore, we determined to kill Mr. Rand, who was the chief. Okay, so the motivation behind why exactly were they killed, uh, or took such an extreme step of assassination somebody, the motivation underneath was that they messed with their civilizational way of living. Okay. uh, if you had to draw one parallel between the examples of when the pagan native has resorted to such extreme measures, is the tribals were very much okay with British extracting exorbitant revenues from them. They did not revolt with them when they were, extracting so much of revenue from them. When did the tribal people choose to revolt against the British? When they interfered with their way of life, when they started usurping lands that the tribal considered as their motherland, when they tried to convert them to Christianity, the way of life that they hold very dear. That is when the pagan tribal revolted against the British. Okay, so that is what happened to the Chapekar brothers as well. They were motivated by these ideas of revenge because the British had messed with the temples. They had, disgraced. They had behaved in a disgraceful manner while violating the modesty of the native pagan women. They had burned down their pothis. I don't know how exactly burning down the pothis and breaking the idols was helping with suppressing of the plague, but this was the confession that Chapekar brothers had put down in written, and this was the motivation behind them. Okay, so yes, both the Chapekar brothers, one was shot and executed, another one was hanged. All right, for assassination, and one of the all other outcomes, one of the other after effects of you know this incident which involved assassination of Rand was Tilak. Bal Gangadhar Tilak was also arrested on the charges of sedition. Remember, we have spoken about this of IPC 124, under which sedition had a very broad outlook. When you anybody who talks bad about the king or queen, or anybody who talks about bringing down the majesty's government, qualified as somebody who was seditioning against the majesty's government. So yes, even Bal Gangadhar Tilak, who was another national icon, we are also going to do a character sketch of him as well. So he was also arrested, and he would be in jail up until 1914, and then he'll again come back. Okay, so let's see what. So after all of this, Chapekar brothers being arrested and executed, and again Bal Gangadhar Tilak being tried for sedition. In 1899, again Nasik was hit by plague. There was another round of plague that hit Nasik. Okay. Now, unfortunately for Vinayak, he also lost his brother. Okay, he also lost his, not exactly brother, not his brother. I'm sorry, his father to this plague, and he was orphaned at the very tender age of 16. Okay, it might have been difficult. It might have been difficult, and so yes, now that they were in Nasik, okay, the person that brought them to Nasik was Bapu Kaka. He also perished during the plague, and now he was completely alone at the mercy of himself. Definitely, he's going to find some people in the future, some like-minded people, but for the time being, he was alone. His father had died. The person who supported him in Nasik had died, and now he was all alone in Nasik. So they decided that now it makes no sense to go to some other place and settle down. So hence they settled down in Nasik. Okay. So yes, but Nasik is very deeply rooted in religious. I'll not use the word religious, because religious is something that has been very corrupted by the West. and by the British themselves. Okay, the term religious is used very loosely, very liberally, and they don't know what exactly religious means. So I'll use the way of tradition and culture. Nasik as a place is very much rooted in tradition and culture. Our both the great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharat, both of them mention Nasik as a town. Nasik is also home to, you know, the Mahakumbh. Okay, Mahakumbh is held on the banks of river Godavari, and Nasik is one of the places where Mahakumbh is held. Okay, now the Savarkars, they moved permanently to Nasik is in 1899. Okay, keep in mind, he has no mother, he has no father, and yep, he goes to Nasik. He meets like-minded people. Okay, he goes to Nasik. He meets like-minded people. He sets up an underground society. Okay, that in the future is going to be named as Abhinav Bharat. All right, he sets up an underground society. He gathers some like-minded people. He makes up some rules. Okay, now this is what has been stopped by the British. Something that we need to start again is our tradition of debating and discussion. All right, this is something that I don't know why exactly it has stopped, but it has stopped right after independence. We don't believe in debate and discussion. It's only, yeah, one part of the argument that is right, another part has to, inevitably accept that yes, you are right. There is no room for debate, and this goes for all the. I'm not really pandering to any one of the political ideologies. The mere fact that I'm being accused of, being a leftist, being a rightist, because these two distinctions, left and right and center, that is a Western import. Okay, because yeah, that's again a discussion for another video and another live stream. But yes, okay. So Vinayak, right, when he came to Nasik, he thinks about setting up, and he indeed goes on and sets up another not exactly political organization, but an underground society of infant revolutionaries, I would say. Okay, they were. mm, Vinayak was inspired by the ideas of secret revolutionary societies that were there in Ireland and Europe. Okay, so Vinayak Savarkar, he sets up secret revolutionary society in Nasik, and then in future that society is going to be called as Abhinav Bharat. Okay, they look up for some places. They were looking for places where um, that could be kept secret from the British authorities, but because the British exactly weren't accommodating and welcoming about the revolutionary thoughts of the natives, because they were really afraid about the revolutionary thoughts of the natives, because they knew if the native is able to sustain these revolutionary thoughts, one day they'll again become so powerful that they will demand, you know, complete and utter independence. So yes, so initially, that society was named Mitramela. What they did was, mm, initially the aim of Mitramela was to make people aware about what exactly was going on in the surroundings. Because when you are not aware about what exactly is going on in the surroundings, your opinion is rather limited. Your opinion is enclosed in these four walls and based on what the British tell you. So that is what happened. Vinayak, he sets up a club, rather. If you, it was a club that was future what that was in that in future was going to develop as a community of like-minded people. So yes, it was rather a community or a club where people used to gather, read a few books, debate, give speeches, and try to make people aware and conscious about their own cultural and traditional roots, because that was the whole point of this exercise. Okay, so this is how the ideas of people generally develop. That is why I'll take a rather an example. We are going to diverge from the topic, but the reason why China is so much scared of Bharat because of the ideas of democracy. Okay, it does not want the success story that Bharat is currently undergoing. Okay, it does not want the story to spread across its citizens who have been made to believe in these communistic ideas. Okay, so yes, once when you spread these ideas across people, and hence that is where this rise of consciousness comes from. You need to make people aware what exactly happening across the world, and hence they will become aware. This is what is going to show up in the future as people being politically aware. Okay. So yes, Vinayak, he was admitted in the schools. He started his schooling, in 1899 into a high school. In a couple of months, he was also promoted, and yeah, so he started off his schooling. He was not ready to give up on academics just because he was involved in this revolutionary activities. Yep. So he started his education again. The background of Vinayak was not exactly affluent. His father has passed away due to the plague at a very early age, and it was his elder brother who was looking after the financial condition of Vinayak. Now Vinayak had to go to school. His elder brother was of the opinion that Vinayak had to learn and be educated and be a beacon for their own household. So the only hope that the Savarkars had was Vinayak's education. So his brother, he leaved no stone unturned. He had to sell his wife's jewelry, his wife's, nathni and all that. It is considered very sacred in the Marathi community. But yes, they had to sell their um, jewelry to educate Vinayak. And it's very well documented in his memoirs and other biographies that have been written. But yes, uh, he was educated with very, very, extreme hardships. They had to they had to work hard to make the ends meet. Okay, so after going through high school with economic difficulties, he managed to get himself enrolled into Ferguson College. Ferguson College, situated in Pune, he got himself admitted to it on 24th of January 1909. He got into an arts degree. Okay. Yep, he got into this arts degree, and rather his education was funded by his father-in-law. He married a girl in the meanwhile, and his education at Ferguson College was financed by his father-in-law. He was very grateful. He was very grateful to them. By the time he had taken up this skill of writing. Okay, like I have mentioned, Vinayak was a prolific writer, and even better, a poet. He has written multiple poets. He has written multiple weekly newsletters that we'll cover in the future, in the further parts of this video. But yes, now think for a while. Somebody who has this degree of academic brilliance, somebody who writes very well, somebody who speaks very well, somebody who writes poems very well. Okay, how moral would that person be? Okay, right now we are venturing into speculations by asking these questions because we don't exactly have enough evidence to determine whether Vinayak was, moral. What was the bedrock of his morality? Where did he derive his principles of morality from? But right now all we can do is ask questions, and based on the relevant literary evidence available, we can ponder upon the answers to these questions. Okay, so first of all, a person who is very well written, he is an erudite poet. What exactly do you think the kind of person he would be? Okay, a prolific writer, a poet, a songwriter. He's writing in weekly newspapers. So I'll leave it to your better judgment. Okay. So there are multiple poems in this book that Vikram Sampath has included. I would very much encourage it. These things are also available on the internet. Poems written by Savarkar as well. You can go through it. You can go through these poems and be a judge for yourself. What were the nationalistic sentiments that Savarkar nurtured during his early years, during his formative years as a revolutionary? Okay. Multiple poems given on here in this book. It's a really good read for somebody who has not really, understood this character, and going by the, like, the popular, the pop history that we have out there, that usually is monopolized by the left. Now, I'm not saying to emulate Savarkar or consider him as as a role model. I'm just simply, in light of the literary evidence that has been made public by multiple writers, I'm simply just asking you to afford him some degree of empathy that you afford to Mohandas Gandhi and other leaders. Just that. I'm not asking you to do what he did. Okay, I'm not furthering the ideology that he has written so extensively about. Okay, that's a discussion for another video. All I'm asking you to do is afford him the degree of empathy that you afford to Mohandas Gandhi, JL Nehru, and all the other leftist leaders. That is all that I'm asking. Next up is, now, while all of this is going on, the word tends to spread. Okay, and it should. The word tends to spread. Now, what is going to happen is, there was an individual who goes by the name of uh, Agamya Guru. He was an impostor. He was an impostor religious leader. He was considered to be a fiery brand, meaning he used to give very emotive lectures to people. And Vinayak, he was asked to interview this fellow, Agamya Guru, this impostor guru. Now, within a few minutes into the interview, Vinayak, figures out that this person is an impostor. Why? Because Vinayak asked him that, do you clarify your political positions? Cannot just simply sit on the fence and talk about social issues without declaring your political position. Okay, it's easier for somebody to sit on the fence and criticize either side of the political parties, but it becomes very difficult when you put out your own political position. What this does is, when you put out your own political position, it leaves you vulnerable to criticism. And that is something that not a lot of people can take. So you will see there are many political leaders, political parties in our country who will not put out their own political positions, uh, but they will criticize the political position of some other political party without disclosing their own political position. This is actually intellectual dishonesty, and one political party, that is Congress, is guilty of it, because there is no specific political ideology of Congress, but they are hell bent on criticizing others. Okay, now here is where, okay, the reason why I'm telling this incident, because there was a sedition committee report by Justice Rowlett that was written. Okay, this interview that was taken by Savarkar, they caught the attention of British authorities. All right, British authorities. Now, this is where Savarkar establishes a permanent position into the radar of the British authorities. Okay, Justice Rowlett writes this for, okay, it was a confidential document, the Sedition Committee report of 1918. Okay. The committee was presided over by Justice Rowlett, and it had the inputs of eminent judges, official, and intelligence agents. Vinayak Savarkar and his activities in Pune are elaborately covered here, indicating that by then he had come under the radar of intelligence department of the British government. Okay, so the British, they were pretty much interested in the revolutionary activities of Savarkar, and if the secret, if this sedition committee report is secretly following Savarkar, okay, you need to imagine. I'm going to appeal to your reason. Okay, if the British secretly is following Savarkar, why exactly are they doing that? There has to be some substance in that person. Why exactly is British secretly following Savarkar? Because he had certain abilities. He was putting out ideas that was resonating with the masses. They did not want, because clearly the interest of British was to protect and prolong their rule, and somebody who is posing a challenge to them would be a person of interest to them. So hence, so this is where he comes under the radar. Okay, this is widely available on the internet. I'll not like to read extracts from that you know, that report. But yes, it is widely available on the internet. You can, go through it. Again, on in 1906, Savarkar was again delivering a speech in Pune. This is an extract from his speech. This is him saying, okay, detectives are here. I'm glad that they have come here to hear and help us in this work we are doing. We have, so to say, indirectly the sympathy of these people and brought even the police to our side. Bear in mind the commands of Ramdas, follow them in the work you undertake. We have lost everything. We have no more faith in our own religion. Try to re-establish that in India. Shed no tears for what is lost. Shed drops of blood to regain what is lost. So here in his speech, Savarkar is, you know, um, uh, quoting. There was a priest who goes by the name of Ramdas. He was the spiritual mentor of Shivaji Maharaj, and that person needs no introduction. So yes, he was the spiritual mentor of Shivaji Maharaj, and he is uh, quoting him as to you need to revive that civilization. So he was pretty much aware. Savarkar was pretty much aware that the British detectives are on his tail. Okay. Now there was a person who goes by the name of Alexander Montgomery. Alexander Montgomery, he was the civil servant and in the Indian civil service. Okay. Now there was a secret file that was maintained by this fellow Montgomery in 1906. Okay. Now in 1906, okay, these are his words. He was Montgomery. He was a magistrate of Nasik. Okay. Now this is what he writes. This is what Montgomery writes in that secret file about Savarkar. Let's see. Okay. His delivery is fast, he is extremely bold and is very impressive in style, and at times, when encouraged by cheers of his audience, forgets that detectives are around him. In my humble opinion, he has been ruining his own life, for he is yet but a raw boy, not fitted to preach opinions which he scarcely understands, and in addition has been sporting the lives of youngsters by putting in very nasty ideas into their tender brains. This evening, he convened a meeting of students of which he was the president. Okay. He addressed his audience like a general before leading his men to a desperate onset. He spoke for nearly 35 minutes. It would appear that a branch of the Indo European movement will shortly be established in Pune. Okay, here this fellow magistrate from Nasik is writing in his secret file about Savarkar that this person has developed into an accomplished orator. He's speaking about revolutionary ideas. British were under the impression. I guess they underestimated Savarkar. Montgomery is of the opinion that that the ideas about which Savarkar is speaking, he does not understand them. He's too young to comprehend them. But little did they know that this young revolutionary in the future is going to be a nagging thorn in their flesh. Okay. So yes, this is Montgomery. He writes. So this indeed proves that British were aware about the things that Savarkar was doing, the things that he was engaged in. All right. So yes, now hereafter, giving all these speeches, going to all these organizations, like I said, the word spreads. So word spreads quickly, and the word reaches one individual who goes by the name of Pandit Shyamji Krishna Verma. Okay. Now, to understand the importance of Shyamji Krishna Verma, you need to understand a little background of that particular individual. So to divert from Savarkar for a moment, we are going to get into Shyamji Krishna Verma. Who exactly was he, and how did he help Savarkar in furthering that cause? Okay, so Shyamji Krishna Verma, he was born in Kutch. Okay, there is a place called Mandvi in Kutch that is located in Gujarat. He was born in 1857, the year of the first armed revolt. Okay, not exactly first, that is again very much debatable, like everything in our history. But yes, okay, so Shyamji Krishna Verma, he was born, he was educated in English schools, Wilson High School, Elphinstone High School. He was also a great scholar of Sanskrit as well. But the molding effect on his psyche, okay, that was played by one legendary individual who goes by the name of Dayanand Saraswati. the founder of Arya Samaj, for which Shyamji Krishna Verma also works and goes on some of his tours as well. So yes, Shyamji Krishna Verma, he comes into the contact of the Arya Samaj. He is influenced by their ideology of returning to the Vedic faith and ridding the pagan native faith of all the perversions and corruptions that had accumulated over the years. Okay, so the worldview and the psyche of Shyamji Krishna Verma was shaped by the principles of Arya Samaj. Okay, he also worked for them. All right. So after all of this, he had a stellar academic record, Shyamji Krishna Verma. Now he was also a very an erudite scholar of Sanskrit as well. Okay, now British, since they were intrigued by this language of Sanskrit, they needed somebody. All right, now a professor who goes by the name of Monier Williams, he spots Verma, Shyamji Krishna Verma. He spots Verma. He is impressed by his skill in Sanskrit, and he takes him along to Oxford. Okay, Shyamji Krishna Verma, he goes to Oxford. He becomes a barrister. He becomes exposed to these ideas of English. He goes there. He experiences firsthand what exactly does it means to be English. Then after becoming a barrister, he comes back. Okay, studying over there. He comes back in the year of 1885. Okay, what does he do? He acts as a divan for states of Ratlam, Udaipur, Junagadh. He practices law in Ajmer. But after doing all of this, he comes into contact with whom? Bal Gangadhar Tilak. Bar Gangadhar Tilak is the fountain of nationalistic ideas. If you haven't read, or if you haven't read about him, if you haven't come in contact with his writings, I would pretty much encourage all of you to do it. But if you don't have time, keep following this channel, and we are also going to do a character sketch of Bal Gangadhar Tilak as well. Okay, so Shyamji Krishna Verma, he comes into contact with Bal Gangadhar Tilak. All right. So yes, but all through this, now what Tilak is going to do is Tilak puts him in touch with Savarkar. Okay, Shyamji Krishna Verma, he establishes this place called India House in London. What he used to do is he used to pick out some raw talent, some raw nationalistic talent from Bharat, take them to Britain, educate them, let them experience firsthand the English culture, the English way of life, so they can, come closer and experience all of these things. So what he does is Shyamji Krishna Verma, he establishes an India House in London. Bal Gangadhar Tilak puts Savarkar in touch with Shyamji Krishna Verma. Savarkar grabs this opportunity, and now he goes to London to study law. Okay, he wanted to experience firsthand. Okay, now I'm going to read the recommendation letter. I'm going to read the recommendation letter that Bal Gangadhar Tilak wrote for Savarkar. And this is what Tilak wrote to Shyamji for Savarkar, recommending him for one of his scholarships at the India House in London. Okay. When there is such a rush like that, it is no use recommending anyone particular to your notice. But still, I may state among the applicants, there is one Mr. Savarkar from Bombay who graduated last year and whom I know to be a spirited young man, very enthusiastic in the Swadeshi cause, so much so that he had to incur the displeasure of Ferguson College authorities. He has no mind to take up government service at any time, and his moral character is very good. This is, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, the stalwart of the nationalistic cause, writing a letter of recommendation for Savarkar, to have one of the scholarships that was, started or initiated by Shyamji Krishna Verma. Okay, so this earned him a scholarship. Savarkar was going to travel to England to study and stay among the whites, stay among the British, and learn their way of life. Okay. Now, here I would like to say that although he was going there to study law, but my sense of reason says that the reason why Savarkar chose to go to London, uh, you know, is partially different. I might be wrong, okay, I might be wrong, but a person as somebody who is, pretty much very much committed to the nationalistic cause, I think Savarkar was going over there to learn their mannerisms, learn their ways, learn their philosophy, learn their language in a better way, and using all these things against them. Okay, this is one of the reason why, I would say, this is one of the reason why uh, uh, one of the officers of the secret service in Bharat writes to the office of crime branch in London about the arrival of Savarkar, that he is going to arrive on the shores of England. Okay, so yes, in the month of June in 1906, Savarkar boards a ship to go to London. Okay, now this is where on the ship he's going to meet a few individuals from Punjab. One of the that individual goes by the name of Harnam Singh. Okay, and another one, he does not reveal his names, but he gives an epithet to that person, Mr. Etiquette. Okay, now this is an interesting character who goes by the name of Mr. Etiquette in the memoirs of Savarkar. Why exactly does he call him Mr. Etiquette? Because that person was Punjabi, but he had adopted all the mannerisms and all the way of life of the English. He was wearing suits and pants, he was smoking cigars and pipes, he was speaking in English. Okay, now what does this signify? What does this signify? In the year of 1906, it was pretty much common knowledge that if you had to gain the acceptance of the British, you need to adopt their ways of lives, and that exactly is being manifested by this character, that is Mr. Etiquette, that finds mention in the memoirs of Savarkar. So when he was on that ship, that the name of that ship was SS Portia. Okay, so when he was on that ship, uh, he met a lot of fellow individuals, and he saw that these individuals, uh, they were embarrassed. Okay, they were embarrassed to be themselves. Like this fellow Harnam Singh, he wore a turban. Okay, Sikhs, they this is their attire. Turban is a part of their attire. So when the Sikhs, they wore a turban, the kids on the ship, they would laugh at them, they would make fun of them. So to avoid such humiliation, to avoid such embarrassment, you know the natives of Bharat, the pagan natives of Bharat at that time, they used to adopt the ways of the English to avoid embarrassment, to avoid humiliation. Okay. Savarkar is also going to do the same. We are going to discover that in the further parts. But yes, so he on the ship he met many of the native individuals, many of the native pagans of Bharat who were going to, uh, you know, England to study. But this particular individual, that is Mr. Etiquette, he had done many prior multiple tours of Europe. Okay, he was very well versed, very well versed in the mannerisms of England, the mannerisms of the English. So they were very much shocked. Okay, when Savarkar told them about that he is running an underground revolutionary network back home in Bharat, they were shocked and they were astonished that how can there be an underground revolutionary network. So they wanted to join these networks, and very like on that very day on the ship, they took an oath to join the revolutionary society of that was run by Savarkar. Okay, so yes, there are also multiple poems that Vikram Sampath mentions in his book about how Savarkar wrote poems on, on the ship when he was alone. All right. So yes. So the time passes by. Vinayak keeps on writing poems, keeps on, feeling homesick, longing for, uh, longing to meet his family members, longing for their emotions. Okay. So to So one of the ways he vented these emotions, or one of the ways he channeled these emotions, by writing these poems, writing these essays. These are all out there in public domain. You can look it up on the Google, and this is frequently said that why don't exactly we, because literature as a subject is taught in schools. Why exactly don't we teach this native literature? Why do we teach, William Shakespeare or all the other foreign authors? We have some native authors who have contributed tremendously to, you know, uh, to literature. They have uh, contributed tremendously to literature. And one food for thought for you guys: why exactly don't we promote such literature? Because that will evoke the sentiments of nationalism and revolution, revolutionary fervor amongst the students. That is what the political left does not want. So it is widely available on the internet. Okay, you can download it. You don't have to take my word for it. And so yes, there is a place called Marseille in France. The ship on which Vinayak traveled, that ship reaches France. They get down at France. They again reach a place in France that goes by the name of Calais. I don't know. But then from there onwards, they travel. They cross the English Channel and they reach. And after taking a train, they reach London. So he reaches London on 3rd of July 1906, and he embarked on this journey in the month of June, on 9th of June. So it roughly takes about a month in the year of 1900s to reach by ship from Bharat to England. Yep. So this is what I was talking about. Okay. Interestingly, even as he was en route to England, the special crime branch in Pune had sent a report about Vinayak's proposed arrival to London. In a confidential letter dated 14th June 1906, S.W. Wirely from India wrote to R. Ritchie of the India Office Crime Branch in London. Okay. These are his words. This is what he wrote. He promises to be a firebrand. Okay. If indeed Vinayak was of no, importance to the British, why exactly were they spending money and resources to spy on Vinayak? Okay, there was a warning given from somebody in Bharat to somebody in England, some crime branch officer in London, that there was a person who was arriving at the shores of England who promises to be a firebrand. So they knew the capacities that Vinayak had. They knew the ability that Vinayak had to, resonate with the masses. So now that he was coming over there, they need to be a little bit careful. Okay, so yes, the detective agencies in England and in Bharat, they were keeping a keen watch on young Vinayak's every move. Okay, so there has to be something about that particular individual. Why exactly were they keeping tabs on Vinayak? There has to be something about him. All right, so yes, now what else does he write? Now there is very interesting anecdote that is mentioned in this book. Is on the date of 15th of July 1906, okay, Savarkar, he writes an application because he wanted to visit the budget speech in British Parliament. Who exactly does that? Okay, even after like almost 75 years of transfer of power, to this very day, nobody from our, you know n- nobody goes to the parliament to listen to budget speech. But Savarkar had this great curiosity to go to listen to the budget speeches in British Parliament. Okay, that gives you an insight into his brain. What piqued, what motivated or sparked his curiosity. Okay, what were the factors that indulged him intellectually? So he wanted to go to the parliament. He wrote a letter to the secretary of state. He got the permission. Okay, now Curzon Wiley, who was the concerned authority for given permission, and that he also gives, he obliges Savarkar into visiting the British Parliament to listen to the budget speech. Okay, but this is how Curzon Wiley describes Savarkar in his own words. So he writes, Savarkar, he was a small man with an intelligent face and a nervous manner. Okay, quite frequently I have been a persistent student of English all my school life, and to this very day I'm very much fond of the language. I keep on studying, I keep on reading. But Using intelligent as an adjective for somebody's face. How can somebody's face be intelligent? Okay, so this is Curzon Wiley using intelligent as an adjective for Vinayak's face. A small man with an intelligent face and a nervous manner. Okay, now after witnessing the budget speech, after witnessing the budget speech in British Parliament, okay, he started writing a newsletter. He started writing a newsletter and sending it back to Bharat, because this was the first hand knowledge that he was gaining, and that is what he was doing. Okay, he wanted to be part of the solution. This is the problem with our current generation. I see multiple people out there talking about, this is the problem with our civilization, this is the problem with the modern day Bharat, sorry, current day Bharat or contemporary Bharat. Now the onus is upon you. What exactly are you doing to, you know solve that problem? Are you part of the solution? Are you trying to be part of the solution? That is the whole purpose why we have opened this portal that goes by the name of esports and information, because we like to believe in being part of the solution. Okay, so that is what Vinayak started. He started writing a newsletter from Britain, and he'll send it across to Bharat with the help of his friend, that was Mr. Etiquette, because Mr. Etiquette had a well established textile business. So he had proper logistic channels to carry something from England to Bharat. Okay. Now, this is what he writes. This is what Vinayak writes after visiting a budget speech in the British Parliament about Bharat. Okay. Vinayak talked about the budget being discussed in British Parliament as merely a documentation of how much money was looted in this financial year and the targets for the following one. So it was basically a corporate meeting. How much profit have we managed to extract, and what are the targets for the upcoming year for the profit? They weren't exactly planning, with the spirit of benevolence, that, oh, we have generated so many profits from this country and the resources of this country, let's give something back. What were they discussing? How to maximize that profit. All right. In the next one of his newsletters, this is what uh, you know Vinayak wrote about various political movements that were going on in London. So this is dated 28th September 1906. Okay. Um, yeah. Many people in Bharat are demanding independence. So Sir Henry Cotton calls them extremists. Okay. We have covered this in our series Unlearning the Falsehoods, wherein if somebody is demanding completely and absolute sovereignty for Bharat, for independence, they were labeled as extremists. Okay. But back home in England, okay, there was a political movement that was going on. But in England, too, there are other political movements that can be called extremist. They recently had a huge meeting in Hyde Park. Large numbers of English women have joined this new movement. They want political rights at par with men. The suffragette movement, meaning, it wasn't by default that these Western countries granted, equal political rights to women. There had to be a political movement for women to get at par political rights with men. This is something that they had to fight for. Okay. Miss Emmeline Pankhurst spoke at the meeting at Hyde Park. She said, we know that pitiable condition of women in England is a result of our political slavery. We want political freedom and men folk to cooperate with us for achieving it. But if they do not give us that freedom, we are quite capable of snatching it from their hands. If we wish, we can bring England to a halt within a day and seize our political freedom. Okay? Listen, fellow countrymen, an English woman is saying this, and we call ourselves moderate Indian men. Never again should any country grind under slavery. Okay, so what was this particular individual that goes by the name of Emmeline Pankhurst? What is she saying? If we wish, we can bring England to a halt within a day and seize our political freedom. Remember what the nationalists and the extremists said. In the words of Bal Gangadhar Tilak himself, he has said that if we stop following the rules of the British from tomorrow onwards, we will be free, that, on that very day. Similar thing has been spoken by some female in England, okay, demanding political freedom. So were they labeled as political extremists back home in England like they were in Bharat? Something for you guys to think about. Okay, so this is Vinayak drawing out parallels. He was there in England, he was observing all of this, he was writing newsletters, sending it back to Bharat. Okay. Now, while staying at India House, that was established by, Shyamji Krishna Verma, like I said, he was there on a scholarship by Shyamji Krishna Verma. He was living in India House, he was not just the only one. There were other individuals as well. That is where he sharpened his ideas of nationalistic. He sharpened his nationalistic ideas by staying with like-minded people. Okay, one particular individual who goes by the name of Pandurang Mahadev Bapat, he meets this particular individual fellow. Okay, now that individual fellow Bapat, he was very much inspired by the ideas of Vinayak. Okay, he to secure these are his writings. Vikram Sampath mentions literary proof in this book. Okay, now these are Bapat's writing. He's writing about Savarkar. Let's see what Pandurang Mahadev Bapat has to say about Savarkar, whom he met in the India House. Before I met Savarkar, I had planned a revolutionary pamphleteer and a lecturer's life for myself. A few months after I met him, I cancelled my plan and took up the idea of going to Paris for learning bomb making. One chief reason for change of mind was the impression that Savarkar made on me by his brilliant writing and speaking. Here was a born revolutionary writer and speaker. I said to myself, I may well leave writing and turn to revolutionary work. Okay, so the aura of Savarkar was such that other individuals were drawn to him. These are the words of that specific individual. This is not me saying, that is Pandurang Mahadev Bapat saying in return that he was so much inspired by the revolutionary ideas of Savarkar that he quit his own way of life and adopted Savarkar's way of thinking, adopted his mindset. This was the exact thing that scared British. The mindset that it was not the individual Savarkar that was the threat to British. It was the mindset that Savarkar carried, that was appealing to people, that was appealing to the masses of the people, that resonated with the day-to-day commoners of Bharat. And that was what scared the British. Okay, and that is why to this very day Savarkar is villainized and vilified. Okay, because of the mindset that he created, the degree of freedom that he was advocating, the freedom of thought that he was advocating. Okay, so yes, Mahadev Bapat, he also takes an oath to join the Revolutionary Society of Savarkar. And that's all for this episode of the character sketch of Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. There are many episodes that are going to come in the future, and there are also many individuals that we are going to cover in this series of character sketch. Keep in mind, these all things are based on literary evidence. There were also memoirs that were written by Savarkar. Many of those memoirs have been destroyed by police raids that were frequent at the place of his living. Wherever he lived, he used to start writing. But when the British authorities got too suspicious about his undertakings and about his actions, they would raid his place of residence, and all these materials would be seized and destroyed. So that was the you know cough, that was the aura that Vinayak Savarkar had. Even his writings were destroyed by British because they were of the opinion that if somebody got hold of these writings, okay, they would also be inspired to change their mindset and think in some other way. Does this give you some insight into his thinking? Does this give you some you know some sort of a reason to think why exactly is this particular individual villainized so much? Okay, there are further parts in this biography that we are going to deconstruct and analyze through all the evidences that are presented. But yes, there definitely is some substance into believing that yes, Vinayak Savarkar was a person, was a national icon, and we are going to uncover some uncomfortable truths in the upcoming episodes of this series, that is Character Sketch. Up until that time, take care. Thank you for watching.